Okay, so my name is Dave Hamill. We're going to take a look here at we can take a quick look here at how we can use risk factors, basically an alternative way to build uncertainty and risk into your plan. With risk factors, you can express risks that are both threats and opportunities at the same time. You can apply risks to entire sections of the WBS. You can have your risk impacts as percentages, and you can also combine many uncertainties against the one activity. And it's an alternative way of building out the uncertainty in your plan that allows you to build correlation between activities based on their common cause. So rather than the need to actually go in and put correlation factors between uncertainties on activities, the fact that you have got common causes, the correlation between them is inherently built into the model. Okay, so what does that look like? So here I've got a plan open in Primavera Risk Analysis. You can see that I haven't got any values here for minimum, likely, or max, or anything on the risk and uncertainty. So I'm going to go ahead and choose risk factors, edit risk factors. So as you can see, this model has got some risk factors already built in. First of all, we've just got a description for each of our different risk factors. So the 9 that we have here, from design, complexity, through to key, personnel, available. For each risk factor, then we can enter percentages for the optimistic, most likely, pessimistic durations. So the duration min, duration likely, duration max. So this is the range by which the risk factor will affect the duration of the tasks it is assigned to. So for example, if the design complexity, its risk factor here has got 120%, then we're going to be adding 20% on top of the remaining duration that is in there. If we're at 95%, then we'll be removing 5%. So it can be both a threat and an opportunity, as we mentioned in the slides. We can then, if we want, also put ranges around cost. The fact that I've got everything here as 100% means that I haven't got cost uncertainty in this model. We can also have likelihoods. So if we have them as 100% as they are here, that means basically this is going to hit every iteration of the simulation. So it's only the variation in the size of the uncertainty that is going to be taken account. Okay, you can also have correlations should we want. So if you wanted to actually have the risk factors themselves correlated, then we could do that. But I think in most cases, we will probably keep these, and certainly to avoid any complexity at the moment, we're going to keep them separate, because as you'll see, correlation is actually something we can build into the model through the nature and the way that these risk factors work. Okay, so that is the defining or the editing. The next thing that we would need to do is assign those. So let me just come back to the top first of all, and then go back in. So you can see my 9 risk factors again, and the selected task that I've got at the moment is 0, start project. As I step through, I can then see, as I move down through my different activities, or in this case, a summary, effectively WBS in here, I can see which of the different risk factors are impacting that line. So if I go to, let me come back to the summary WBS in a moment. So I can see, for example, bypath materials. It's this risk factor number 4 that is linked to here. I can see number 2. I can see 3, 6, and 8 are all linked to the lay path activity. So any of these occur, they're going to impact this particular timing. Coming back to the summary in the WBS, so fence here, which has got these 5 or 6 activities that sit underneath it. If you have a box ticked, then basically that means that you have activities that sit under that WBS that are assigned. So when a summary task in a plan is selected and the cell background of the risk factor is grey, as we have for most of them here, this indicates that some of the children tasks under that summary task have got that particular risk factor assigned to them. When a summary task in a plan is selected and the cell background of the risk factor is white, like we have here for risk factor 4, general management capability, then all of the children tasks under that summary task have got that particular risk factor assigned to them. So if we step through, we will see risk factor 4 as I step through from 60 through to 100 should be ticked for all. The others will be sometimes on, sometimes off. So you can see, in fact, for the first activity there, 64 is the only one still on. Some of the others are on. 4 was on for all. Other thing to mention here is we have got the series and parallel. So if we have activity that we're on at the moment for digging pond, these are in series. That means that it's going to be the cumulative effect of all of these risk factors being multiplied together. If we had them in parallel, it would basically calculate the percentage increase or decrease from each factor, and then take the worst case, the one that's basically adding the most time. So that is the assigning. It can be useful also. There's a view. If you go to insert a particular sheet, that comes out of the box called risk factors, where you can see this additional column. So we can see, for example, that activity 20, risk factor 4 is assigned, and it's only number 4. Activity 30 has only got 2. Activity 40 has got risk factors 3, 6, and 8. Remember, we were looking at fence, and we saw that 4 is beating all of them basically. You can even come in here and assign as well, right? So if I want to say 4 and 7, and I can also input as long as I'm in this format, so inside the brackets, the parentheses with a comma. You can't really input at the summary using this. You would then need to go back and use the assign like we saw previously, and just to show that we've also got 7 checked as well. So other than that, we're ready to run. We run the risk analysis in the same way as before. As we're stepping through, if you want, you can also keep track on here. We get a bit of an explanation of the values. So we see, for example, lay path. It's the 3 remaining days duration that we had in the base. We've got 103.5% from the subcontract availability risk factor, 7.4% being added from weather conditions, 7.6 being added from ground conditions, and so on. So the different figures, the different amounts, just a bit of a clarification in where those numbers are coming from. Analysis of the simulation at the end is very similar to what you would normally do using uncertainty and risk. Histogram all works in the same way. Tornado charts. You have the regular tornado charts that can work in the same way, where you're going to be looking at the tasks in particular. So you can see there are 4 tasks or activities in particular that are having the most impact. Let me switch to this duration actually. We can see dig pond. I guess it's probably got a number of different risk factors that are hitting it. Might be interesting to go and take a look at that in a second. We can also, in fact, let's do that now. 120 dig pond. It's got 4 different risk factors all hitting it. We can also take a look at a slightly different view of the tornado chart by coming into the risk factors and show tornado. So rather than having activities down the side, we've now got the risk factors down the side. And again, we can look at that from a duration or a cost perspective. In this case, there's no cost, so just duration that applies. And I guess in particular, there's weather conditions. We can see that is dominant. 8 and 4 ground conditions in this general management capability. I guess are also the others that would have a big impact. And I guess one final thing to show on here, we can also, within the risk factors, there's the load and the save options. So we can save off a particular file with our sample risk factors, for example, and then reopen that in others. So this can be useful if you want to save the same risk factors across many projects, get some quick start templates or pick lists, etc. So if you've got templates in P6 for different projects, you might want to start to apply the same risk factors and build out in that way as well. Okay, so hopefully that's given you a quick overview of how you can use risk factors.